College felt like a long tunnel with no windows, just fluorescent lights, peeling posters, and the hum of other people's ambitions. While my dorm mates hopped between parties and late-night pizza runs, I commandeered the library's back corner. My focus wasn't midterms, it was the scrappy e-commerce site I'd cobbled together on a borrowed laptop. Most nights I survived on discount ramen and half-price coffee refills, convinced that if I kept coding, kept tinkering, something would click. Nina entered my life during sophomore orientation. She was everything I wasn't: outgoing, sharp-tongued, effortlessly social. When she noticed me hunched over a screen at a campus mixer, she joked that I looked like a cyber monk. Somehow, that line turned into a real conversation, and a week later we were sharing study playlists and cafeteria breakfasts. She said she loved my drive, told me she believed in future me. I believed her. At first, the dynamic worked. I'd slip into her off-campus apartment after midnight, reeking of instant noodles and stale library air, and she'd greet me with microwave popcorn and a blanket. We kept things simple: movie marathons, thrift store dates, doodling logo ideas on napkins. When I worried about burning out, she'd remind me that Jeff Bezos once packed orders in his garage. I clung to that encouragement like a life raft. But the honeymoon haze didn't survive junior year. My website was still bleeding money, and my attention span stretched thinner each month. Nina began hinting, then outright saying, that I'd changed. I wasn't fun anymore. I declined trips to tailgate parties and stayed in during spring break to chase a half-baked marketing tweak. She called it a phase. I insisted it was foundational work. The gulf widened. By autumn, her irritation turned into impatience. She sighed whenever I opened my laptop, scrolled her phone while I brainstormed product descriptions, and cracked jokes about me dating HTML. One night, after I pulled an all-nighter fixing a payment gateway glitch, she texted, "We need a break. I need someone present, not just physically here." I reread that line until the words blurred, then typed a reply I never sent. What could I say that wouldn't sound like another excuse? Silence settled in, thicker than the humidity that clung to our campus. My calls went unanswered. I watched her social media feed out of morbid curiosity. It exploded with sunsets, cocktails, and group photos tagged in Turks and Caicos, a post-finals vacation I hadn't heard about. Front and center was Brett Lawrence, a business frat senior whose Rolex caught the sunlight in every shot. He was the textbook definition of comfortable money: leased Mercedes, fraternity lineage, summer internship at his father's real estate firm. Seeing her tucked under Brett's arm stung more than I expected. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the realization that my someday success had an expiration date in her eyes. I could almost hear her friends cooing over the car he probably didn't even insure himself. The humiliation sat heavy in my chest, a reminder that my dream was still just that, a dream. I wanted to rage message her, to rant about loyalty and patience. Instead, I closed the apps, archived the photos, and hit delete on her contact. If attention was a currency, I was done spending it where it never compounded. I funneled every ounce of that hurt into the site. I learned supplier negotiation at 3 a.m., redesigned the UI between lectures, and hand-packed orders in the campus mailroom before dawn. 5 years slid by, measured not in semesters, but in metrics: conversion rates, repeat customers, quarterly revenue spikes. The night my dashboard showed lifetime sales crossing $1.8 million, I was alone again, but this time in a downtown loft with floor-to-ceiling windows. I exhaled, closed my laptop, and sent a photo of the stats to Rachel, the woman who'd cheered each micro-victory since the business had become more than a survival hobby. Rachel didn't care about projections. She cared that I slept, laughed, and ate something decent. She'd met me at a community startup meetup before I'd earned a single paycheck, and stuck around through server crashes and coffee stain panic. The ring boxed in my nightstand reminded me daily that commitment could thrive in lean seasons. I thought that chapter with Nina was long past. I was wrong. It started with a ping. I was at the gym, finishing up a set, when my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in half a decade. Nina. "Hey, I saw your brand in Forbes. So proud of you. Always knew you had it in you." I stood there for a second, phone in hand, rereading the message like it might change the second time. Always knew. I had to laugh. She knew back when she was posting beach selfies with Brett, when she ghosted me right before finals. I locked the screen without responding and went back to my workout. Letting old wounds breathe again didn't feel worth it. But that wasn't the end of it. A few days later, I was scheduled to speak at a mid-sized tech networking event. Small panel, mid-tier crowd, the usual industry noise. Nothing fancy, just sharing my journey with a few founders and investors in a conference hall downtown. When I stepped off stage, I spotted her almost immediately. Nina, by the snack bar, chatting up someone with a lanyard. She looked different, but not in an unfamiliar way. Her hair was styled sharper, her outfit more curated than I remembered. It wasn't the casual Nina from college. It was intentional, the kind of polished look people wear when they're planning to be seen. We made eye contact. She smiled and waved like we'd run into each other at a coffee shop. "Wow," she said, walking over. "I almost didn't recognize you. You look different." "Tom'll do that," I said casually. "You're really doing it now, huh? I saw your Forbes feature and thought, there he is. There's the guy I always believed in." She gave a soft laugh. "Feels surreal, doesn't it?" I nodded politely. It did feel surreal, but not in the way she meant. "I've missed talking to you," she added, her eyes flicking between mine. "You were always steady, focused, kind." I didn't realize how rare that was until later. I could hear the rehearsed softness in her tone. A little too smooth, a little too curated. But I let her talk. "I've been thinking about us," she continued. "Back then, I didn't know what I wanted. I was young. Stupid, probably. But I never stopped caring about you. Honestly, I never stopped loving you." That line hung there, suspended between us like some fragile thing she hoped I wouldn't drop. I watched her for a beat, calm, measured. It wasn't bitterness that filled me in that moment. It was clarity. I wasn't mad. I wasn't hurt. But I also wasn't the same guy she remembered. Because here's the thing. Back in college, if Nina had said this, just once, at my lowest, I might have forgiven everything. I might have thought we had a future. But she didn't say it back then. She said it now. After Forbes. After the money. After the image was safe. And she had no idea what that said to me. Still, I didn't rush to answer. I just nodded slowly and said, "That's a lot to take in." She smiled again, maybe hopeful, maybe just playing it cool. "Would you want to catch up sometime?" "No pressure. Just dinner, maybe." Before I could answer, I felt a familiar hand on my back. Rachel had arrived. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, holding up a bottle of water and asking how the panel went. Nina froze for a half second before recovering with a gracious smile. "Oh, hi." I turned to Rachel and said, "This is Nina. From college." Rachel nodded politely. Nina didn't say much. And in that awkward triangle of unspoken words, something shifted. I could see it, behind Nina's practiced smile. That flicker of realization. The three of us stood there for a moment. Me, Rachel, and Nina, an odd little tableau of past, present, and what could have been. Nina glanced between us, her smile dimming ever so slightly, the way someone does when they realize they're the outsider in a conversation they thought they were leading. Rachel, being her usual graceful self, didn't pick up on the tension, or maybe she did, and simply rose above it. "I'm going to grab us a table before it gets too crowded," Rachel said with a light squeeze of my hand. "Come find me when you're done." "Of course," I said. She gave Nina a polite nod and turned away. That's when Nina looked at my hand, still partially raised from the goodbye, and noticed the black band on my ring finger. She blinked, then tilted her head slightly. "Wait, are you married?" "Not yet," I said calmly. "But engaged, yeah." "To her?" she asked, pointing in the general direction Rachel had gone. The surprise in her voice wasn't masked well. I nodded. "Rachel, we've been together for almost 4 years now." She stared at me like she was trying to do the math. "That's wow. I didn't know." Her voice had dropped just a little. "When did that happen?" I shrugged. "We met at a startup meetup, back when I was still sharing a room in a 3-flat and delivering orders myself." She didn't respond immediately, just folded her arms and looked away for a second. "You really moved on," she said finally. "I had to," I replied. "Back then, when things fell apart with us, I didn't understand it. Thought maybe I wasn't enough. Thought I had to prove something. But looking back, you made it pretty clear what mattered most to you." She flinched just slightly at that. "That's not fair. I was young. We both were." "Sure. And I don't blame you for leaving," I said. "But you didn't leave because I was wrong for you. You left because I hadn't arrived yet." She swallowed. "That's not true. I cared about you. I really did. I didn't argue. There wasn't a point. But why reach out now?" I asked. Was it really just to say hi? Or was it the Forbes article? The Tesla? The condo? Nina looked genuinely conflicted for a moment. Not angry. Not offended. Just exposed. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe I saw it and wondered what it would have been like if I'd stayed. Maybe I regretted leaving. Maybe I thought you might still feel something." I nodded, letting the silence settle. "Well," I said gently, "I do feel something. Gratitude. You leaving gave me clarity, and the space to grow without needing someone else's approval." She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something shift in her expression. Not defeat, not jealousy, but acceptance. Maybe even a bit of respect. "I guess I really messed up, didn't I?" she said quietly. I didn't say anything, just offered a small, genuine smile. We said goodbye shortly after. No drama, no lingering looks. Just a simple end to a story that had already written its final chapter years ago. Later that night, as Rachel and I sat across from each other at our favorite Thai place, laughing about nothing in particular, my phone buzzed again. It was Nina. I guess I really messed up, didn't I? I locked the screen and slid the phone into my jacket pocket without replying. Some things don't need closure. Some answers come in the form of the person who never left when everything else fell apart. And sometimes, the best response isn't a clever comeback or a bitter retort. It's holding the hand that never let go.